80% of people feel disengaged at their job. My name is Charles, and I'm a leadership coach for highly sensitive people. And I've spent decades observing and identifying patterns in human behavior. So this statistic about job satisfaction doesn't surprise me at all. But I also know from experience that it doesn't need to be that way. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I was told, which is just stick with it. But I'm also not going to recommend blindly jumping career tracks. The truth is, you're probably already primed for something that'll make you happier. You just don't know it yet. So one of my first clients, I'll call him Jimmy, he's a great example of this. He got his degree in data science, which frankly sounds boring as hell to me, but we're all different. But by the time he graduated, he had changed his focus completely and he decided to pursue acting. By the time I met him, he was in his early 30s, broke, carrying a lot of college debt, and he was completely stuck. But within a few months, the trajectory of his career and his life radically altered. Now, we all like to pretend that our work and our personal lives are separate, but the truth is they're not. If you're broke because you don't earn enough money, that impacts your quality of life and your self-esteem. It impacts your relationships. It determines where you can live and even what you can afford to eat. There's no part of your life that's untouched by what you do for a living. And that's the uncomfortable truth that Jimmy was dealing with. In every way you can imagine, he was in a bad place. Now, one thing that I've learned in life is that the best leaders are usually people who've been through genuinely tough times. My father used to say that failure and hardship build character. The reason for that is when you go through tough times, you begin to understand how other people feel when they go through tough times. That empathy makes you a better leader. And by the time Jimmy was through his crisis, he was a leader in every meaningful way. And this might seem weird, but stick with me. Have you ever watched children playing when no one else is watching? No one's telling them what to do? They explore, they experiment, they get fascinated by the weirdest things. They're completely in the moment. As adults, we call it flow, but for kids, it's just life. Unfortunately, by the time we get to the workforce, most of us are so distracted we need caffeine just to pay attention. As we grow up, we're constantly told what's important by our parents and our teachers, by the media, by advertisers, or politicians. And eventually, we internalize all of that. So we forget what it's like to feel awe and wonder because we're following what someone else says is important. Most of us spend the rest of our lives chasing that wonder and joy without understanding that we lost it in the first place. We feel something missing, even if we can't name it. Some people just give up. They surrender to easy dopamine triggers like TV and video games and numbing themselves in other unhealthy ways. But some people, like Jimmy, can't do that. They feel that empty space so deep, they can't ignore it. This is one of the reasons why HSPs are more prone to depression, because we can't numb ourselves as easily. There's actually research on the topic of awe, and they found that intentionally appreciating beauty creates a greater sense of connectedness and calms the nervous system. Now think about that. If you pay attention to something that really makes you feel that awe and wonder, you calm yourself down and you feel more connected to the world, and it increases your creativity. Now, I worked with Jimmy early in my coaching career before I knew about high sensitivity. I don't know for a fact he was HSP, but I'd say he probably was. I can see the same patterns in him that I see in my other clients, and that's probably why his situation hit him so hard. When most people would say they're just going through a phase or it'll pass, Jimmy couldn't. He felt like he had to do something, or he just didn't want to go on anymore. He was that bad. So if you feel things more intensely than the people around you because you're highly sensitive, that intensity works both ways. Highly sensitive people react more strongly to everything, both the good and the bad. We respond just as strongly to nurturing environments as we do to negative ones. And often, we do better than non-HSPs when we're supported properly. And that's why Jimmy's life shifted so radically. His mindset and understanding went from self-doubt and criticism to confidence and purpose, and his outer life began to reflect that change. The simple practice of allowing himself to begin to feel awe began to reinvigorate his life. It was like someone had turned up the vibrancy in the world around him. He felt immense appreciation for the things he'd stopped noticing. And one day, he stopped to just look at a particular tree for several minutes. He just let himself appreciate it. And he was so struck by that he couldn't wait to tell me. He had rediscovered his sense of wonder and awe. And that's something I've seen in a lot of my clients. Once they learn to just reconnect with that sense of awe and wonder, their appreciation for life just skyrockets. And as Jimmy reawakened his sense of awe, he regained his energy and interest in life. And that's the first step. And getting there is surprisingly simple. I had Jimmy keep a running list of every curious idea and question that came to his mind. Everything. Nothing was off limits. Then he started to follow up on those questions, which sparked new questions. He stopped sitting on the couch and doom scrolling, and he started researching and experimenting and tinkering. And he didn't have to be disciplined. He didn't have to force himself to do it. He was excited to explore. He was like that little kid again. Through our discussions, Jimmy realized something he'd missed. It wasn't just acting that he loved. It was storytelling. And acting was just one way to connect with that. During his years of acting, he learned all kinds of skills behind the scenes, the kinds of things that most people never even think about. Plus, to him, like I said, numbers and statistics were stories. He understood raw data and could translate it into stories that other people could understand. And there were people who needed that skill, people who would pay him to do it. All those years, Jimmy's subconscious had been steering him towards what he loved, but he'd missed it because he was focused on a small set of goals and metrics that most people understood and value, things that everyone else told him were important. The kind of curiosity and excitement that Jimmy suddenly had was infectious. People wanted to be around it, and they got excited around him too. And that's how the owner of a production company realized Jimmy's real potential. Within a year, Jimmy was leading a team producing presentations for global companies. That team was so successful that it allowed him to buy his first house, and it radically improved his quality of life. All because he began to pay attention to his curiosity and his awe. Now, this video is about career satisfaction and how it impacts your whole life. A lot of people who are unhappy at work are generally unhappy in their whole lives. Now, if that's you, I made a whole other video called The Quiet Truth About Happiness that deals directly with what most people miss when it comes to happiness. So watch that video after this one. I'll put a link in the description down below. Now, I'll admit the speed with which Jimmy changed his life was remarkable, but it's true and it's genuinely possible for anyone. What's important to understand is that disengagement at work can stem from a lot of things, and it doesn't always mean you've chosen the wrong career. It comes from going through the motions instead of engaging in the moment. And it comes from taking on too much and getting burnt out or being unappreciated. I spent 15 years in the restaurant industry, and I can tell you that when the people around you don't appreciate what you do, it really can make you question everything. Like, if you don't think what you're doing is worthwhile because you're internalizing what their lack of appreciation for you, then yeah, you can think, wow, I just really screwed up my whole life. So instead of assuming you're in the wrong career, which you might be, start by figuring out what really interests you and excites you in life, not just your job. Now, highly sensitive people are pattern recognition machines. That's why curiosity is so important. Find the pattern in your curiosity and awe. It's probably telling you something. Maybe you're in the right job, but with the wrong company. Or you might need to make a bigger change. Either way, you'll have a clear path to your next step. So here's what I want you to do. Keep a notebook in your pocket or on your phone. Start taking notes about your ideas, your random questions that pop into your head, and those moments when you feel that childlike sense of awe. And at the end of each day, go back and reread what you've collected. Ask yourself, is there a pattern? Do the same topics and ideas show up in different ways? Get curious about your curiosity. Now, we're all different, and it's impossible for me to say exactly how finding your curiosity will change you, but I promise you it will change you for the better. Now, obviously, this one exercise isn't all there is. Jimmy went through this process as part of coaching that went a lot deeper. If that's something you'd like to explore, there's a link in the description where you can book a one-on-one call with me. We can discuss what coaching looks like and if it's a good fit for you and your goals. There's no pressure, just an honest conversation. So again, my name is Charles, and I'm a leadership coach for highly sensitive people because for us, leadership looks different. So I'll see you in the next video. Peace.